For this next section, we'll be doing some marker. So I'm going to do my marker in the bottom left, but of course it's up to you, whichever materials you want to use for each of the quadrants. I'm going to start with this PM19. This is canary yellow, and I'm going to use the broader tip of the marker and start going in on the places that I see are yellow. Now when working with marker, we always go from light to dark because the markers are a little translucent, and the more layers you put, the darker it's going to get. With colored pencils, if you put a white pencil on top of something darker, you'll be able to see it, whereas with marker, that is not the case, with lighter colors on top of darker ones. And then switching up the angle of this chisel tip will allow you to get a really nice straight line that goes up to the edge. And just be careful when going over some of the graphite on here with the yellow, because the lighter colors might pick that up. Once I've filled out the bigger sections, I'm also going to use the fine tip to get into some of the more delicate areas. So the body of the butterfly is pretty small, so I want to make sure I'm able to fill everything out without going over some of the lines that I've made. Same thing in these little pointy sections. I like filling out as much as I can first with the wider side, just so that I don't see as many streaks, but the more you layer up your marker, the less streaky it'll look. Next up, I'm going to use PM15. This is a yellow-orange marker, and I'm going to use the fine tip here. While my yellow is still not completely dry, I'm going to go in and add that little hint of orange that I see near the tail of the butterfly. Now the reason why I'm doing this right away is because when the marker is still ever so slightly damp, the colors will blend together better. There won't be as hard of a line and you'll see more of a blur. So that's why I'm doing that right now before moving on. Next I have my PM98. This is a black marker. And I'm going in and filling out that pattern that we are now familiar with from the other sections. I went straight for the fine tip just so that I don't accidentally go over anything that I don't mean to. I'm starting with this outline first, and then I will fill in the inside after. So like the outline on the actual edge of the wing, I'm also going around these shapes in the pattern before I fill in the rest of the black. And this just makes it easier to see, that way I don't accidentally go over those edges. Marker like this is really great for doing a subject like this that has so much bold pattern on it. I like these Prismacolor markers because they're permanent and I find that the pigment is really great. And in my own work, I like to combine them with other materials like the Prismacolor colored pencils, because the marker fills up a lot of ground faster. So the markers end up being a really great base layer underneath things like pencils. And they're also just so bold. So if I'm doing something really graphic, the markers are perfect for that. All right, so we finished up that black part. Next, I'm going to move on to the blue. So this is PM44, this is ultramarine. And I'm just going in and filling these little blue spots This blue looks really nice with all of the yellow and the orange. And this one I'm not filling it up completely because it does look like on the wings it's maybe a little bit iridescent. And so because it has that sparkle, I'm just leaving a few little white gaps. I forgot to add some of the black pattern, so I'm just going in with this, back to the black marker. I'm being very gentle so I can get a nice point with my markers. Blurring the edges a little by using some horizontal strokes, just to mimic that kind of pattern and texture that's going down from the graphite section. And now I'm going to take out this PM61. This is dark umber. So this is like a dark brown. And I'm kind of using this in place of black in some of these finer lines, just so that there's not as much contrast as there would be with the pure black. So creating some fuzz on that body, maybe some faint outlines as well. And for some of these lines, you can even have dashed lines or incomplete lines to suggest that the line is very thin. And I can also use this dark umber to make some of these lines in the pattern a little bit fuzzier. And here I'm just using it for some texture towards the base of these shapes. There's some lighter patches over here that I guess in the reference look black, but because they're so light, I want to be more gentle. So I think using this dark umber, it won't be as jarring. And right now I'm adding some texture by barely touching the paper. And adding some irregularity in some of these lines. There are some places where it looks a little thicker, some places it looks thinner. I think I want to add a little bit more orange. Some of these places on here don't look as orange, but I'm mostly adding it not because I see it in the reference, but because I think it better matches this colored pencil section where I use the orange. And I might even go a little darker in this section and pull out a red. So here we have PM6, this is Carmine Red. Adding just a hint of it to my orange sections. And now I'm just doing some finishing touches, and then the marker will be complete. And there we go. Next, we'll move on to our last section, the watercolor pencils.